Welcome to the Hardwood Hawgs Podcast. I'm your host, Mason Choate, joined by JC Hoops, Jackson Collier, the man who makes the list, the top 100 Arkansas basketball players of all time. You know him best from that, and of course, the JC Hoops Podcast, which now he's on the Hardwood Hawgs Podcast, which is part of the HawgBeat Podcast Network. Go visit HawgBeat.com, HawgBeat.com. For all of the best Arkansas athletics coverage out there. We're part of the Rivals Network, and I'm telling you, it's worth it. Our message board is on fire. Everybody is just posting left and right. Every time I get on there, I'm having to respond to a ton of stuff. So it's a great time to subscribe to HawgBeat.com. And before we get started on today's podcast, because we got a lot to get to, there was a game in North Little Rock that Arkansas won, and Jackson was there. I wasn't there, but it seems like there weren't really any issues in this game, whereas normally in North Little Rock there are issues. So we'll talk about that. Jackson will tell you what he saw. But before we do, I want to remind you about our presenting sponsor, and that is Dead Soxy. Dead Soxy is a proud sponsor of HawgBeat.com. And if you're a listener of the Hardwood Hawgs Podcast or a subscriber of HawgBeat.com, you get a special deal that is not available to the public. If you go to deadsoxy.com, that's DEADSOXY.com, and use code HOGS, HAWGS, like in HawgBeat, HOGS, at checkout for savings, you can get 30% off and free shipping, no minimum purchase. All you got to use is code HOGS, not available to the public. This is only for listeners. Only you listening to this podcast know about this, or if you subscribe to HawgBeat.com. So use code HOGS to get 30% off and free shipping on premium socks. These socks are amazing. They send us gift boxes for Christmas. Everybody who works at HawgBeat, they send us gift boxes. I love the socks. I wear them every day because they're super comfortable. And Jackson, you got your box in, so now you can talk about Dead Soxy and how much you love it. How much do you love Dead Soxy, Jackson?
So I have worn them pretty much 5 days in a row now. I got my box in last week, and yeah, no, I haven't worn any other socks since I got them in. Obviously, I'm gonna have to do laundry today so that I can keep wearing them, but they're super comfy. I love the color because all my socks up until I got these were just standard black or white socks. There's nothing wrong with, but it's nice. They're comfortable. They're warm. We're getting into the cold months, so no, super comfortable, and I love them so much.
All right, code HOGS, HAWGS, at checkout when you go to deadsoxy.com. You'll get 30% off and free shipping, no minimums on that order. Okay, Jackson. I feel like we probably need to lead with Nick Smith because, as per usual with the Arkansas fan base, who we love, we wouldn't be where we are without the Arkansas fans because we rely on them to click on our information and to listen to this podcast. But they were burning down the message boards and Twitter yesterday, which was Monday because we're recording this on Tuesday. Nick Smith Jr., we got to talk about him. Okay? Give us the update on Nick Smith Jr., Jackson.
Right. So I was at the game in North Little Rock Saturday, and it was normal first half. He was logging a lot of minutes, and then I guess came off the court at one point in the second half, or I think it was second half. But anyway, I just remember he was looking a little uncomfortable. He was limping a little bit, and in Coach Musselman's post-game press conference, he said essentially that he had to get retaped, and then the tape was uncomfortable, and it was kind of like a taping issue type of deal. He said pretty much explicitly in the press conference, no worries, he'll be back for Wednesday, no big deal. And then yesterday, Monday, Facebook, Twitter, message boards, there's all these rumors about, Nick Smith might be out for the year, out for an extended period of time, and might never see him in a Razorback uniform again. And, we just don't know anything. Really, like, all we know is what Coach Musselman has said so far. And after the game, he said, no, he'll be good to go Wednesday. It was a taping issue. And then yesterday, there was no update. It was just, oh, we got practice in 15 minutes. I can't give you an update yet. So that's literally all we know. We don't know anything for certain. But I mean, that's that. He was limping. He came out, and Muss says he's good to go, or at least he said that after the game. So
He said it after the game. Yeah. So the update, to put it simply, we don't know because we're not at practice. We're not Nick Smith Jr. We're not Eric Musselman. So you'll just have to wait and see on Wednesday if he's out there or if he's not out there, and then we'll get a statement probably before the game if he's not going to play. So that's all we can do. I think that it's irresponsible to spread rumors like he's going to be out for the season when you don't know for sure. So that's something that we will not do on HawgBeat.com. All right, let's get into the Bradley game, though. As I mentioned earlier, it seems like Arkansas didn't really struggle, but I was not there. Jackson, you were there, so take us through what you saw. It seems like it was the Jordan Walsh game until he fouled out.
oh yeah, Jordan Walsh looked so good. He was doing stuff that I hadn't seen him do yet this year. He was doing straight line drives. He was bodying low post defenders after he would get into the paint. He would finish through contact. He was making different moves. He was trying some spin moves, some up and unders, finishing through contact. He was 100% from the field. He was 7 for 7 from the field, and that included an open three. I mean, he's playing with more confidence. His shot looks good. And oh my goodness, the sequence. Luckily, it found its way to Twitter via one of the local sports anchors. I think one of the local THV 11 anchors. There was a sequence in the game. I tweeted about it, and everybody heard it on the radio, where Jordan Walsh got a steal, and then he and AB were running tip drill down because they had a defender in between them. So they were just running tip drill. Ball never hit the floor. I'm talking, it barely touched their fingertips, and they're going down. Beautiful transition basketball. Ends up, the ball's in Jordan Walsh's hands, and he jumps from almost the free throw line, like probably halfway between the free throw line and the baseline, and just soars, two-hand slams it. Huge highlight play by itself. Very next possession, they get another steal, and they're running a three-man fast break. They're actually dribbling a little bit, and it ends Anthony Black throwing a lob to Jordan Walsh, jumping from the same spot, dunking it the same way, just soaring through the air, and the roof blows off the place. Bradley calls a timeout, and Jordan Walsh gets hype, and it's like, that is what Arkansas has needed to see from Jordan Walsh, is him playing with that level of confidence, playing with that level of just sheer want to and desire on the offensive end, and he did it. And he did it all game. And unfortunately, he did end up fouling out early. He had 16 points in the first half, finished with 18 on the game. But he was just so good. I think he finished with like 18 points, something like 4 rebounds and 3 steals. Another pretty complete performance from him. He just looked really, really good. He was saying in the post-game press conference too about how Musselman said, keep shooting your shot and play confident. And as soon as he heard Musselman say, we need you to play confident, it's almost like he just was like, okay, cool. Yeah, I can play more confident. And he did. And he scored 18 points, a new career high for him after putting up, I think, tying his previous career high last week against Oklahoma with 12. So those back-to-back games, it's really a great trend for Arkansas and for Jordan Walsh.
Yeah, and another thing that I picked up on after the game was that he talked about how he was watching film with Keith Smart, and that's another thing that Eric Musselman mentioned, was that Walsh had been watching a lot of film. And so, it seems like early on in the season, you saw it from Anthony Black. You knew you were going to see it from Nick Smith Jr. whenever he got on the court. But a lot of people were talking about Jordan Walsh as this guy who, he's just a little bit behind these guys. He's raw. And we said he was raw. We've talked about how Jordan Walsh was raw on this podcast, but I feel like we also said that he's just like a few things clicking away. And now we're starting to see that. But there were a lot of people who were like, Jordan Walsh, he needs another year after like 2 games. They were like, yeah, Jordan Walsh just needs another year. And you can't come to that conclusion after 2 games, especially with an Eric Musselman team, because you know that they're not going to be playing their best basketball until the last game of the season. Like, that's just how Eric Musselman teams work.
And another thing to go along with that too, it's like, you can still be very raw, and that all that means is you haven't honed in on your skill set yet. And you have an NBA staff, and NBA coaches know how to develop talent, you're gonna develop. And for Jordan Walsh, all it was a little bit of little bit more confidence, a little bit more minutes here, there, and getting it going on the defensive end too. I mean, he was being physical, getting rebounds, he was getting steals, like he was doing everything. And it was really great to see. And talking about Keith Smart a little bit too, he has been an incredible addition to this staff. Um, from what I've heard from recruits' parents, from players, everything, he is so detail oriented, which obviously Muss is too, but it's one of those things where he can walk into the gym, see a kid shoot for the first time. Like they might be recruiting someone and they're on a visit or seeing them out. He can see them shoot for the first time and completely diagnose what's wrong with their shooting form, what's wrong with their shot and everything, just off seeing someone shoot once or twice. Completely changes their free throw routine, whatever. It's incredible. And obviously he has NBA head coaching experience and all that sort of stuff, but he is a fantastic addition to the staff. Also talking about, Anthony Black, I think as well as he played in Maui, the game against Bradley was one of his better ones. I'm not going to say it was his best game as a Razorback, but it was one of his more balanced games as a Hog. We can pull up his stat line right here, but I mean, he had 15 points, 3 rebounds, 4 assists, 2 blocks, 2 steals, really did it all over the place. Only turned the ball over twice. The second one came pretty late in the game. Efficient. He was 4 of 7 from the field. I mean, that's a game you really, really want to have from your starting point guard. He's not somebody that the team looks to be one of their primary scorers, but he can do that. And he did that. I mean, he had 15 points. He was efficient with doing that. He distributed the ball. He played really good defense. And having a 6'7" point guard that he's put on weight since he's got on campus, and he's being able to hold his own in the post. He got back down in the post 2 or 3 times and held his ground against a big man. Granted, a big man for Bradley might not be the same caliber or size as a big man in the SEC, but having a point guard be able to switch down low and hold his own, that just opens up so much for what you can do defensively. And he's blocking shots at the rim. You're adding another layer of shot blocking from the point guard position outside of just having your low post guys be able to do it. It was a great performance from him as well. And obviously Ricky Council just doing what he does. He kept trying to take over the game, shot a ton of free throws because every time he wanted to get a steal and put up one of his highlight reverse dunks, that seemed like Bradley that they had a game plan to keep him on the ground because every time he kept trying to go, they would wrap him up or something. But all around, really good performance.
I want to ask you about the 27 turnovers for Bradley. Arkansas had 16 steals, forced 27 turnovers. It seems like, if I'm correct, I believe that a lot of those came in the first half as well. Just talk about the defense of Arkansas in that game, because 27 turnovers is a lot.
Yeah, so I think they had 16 turnovers in the first half, which that's a lot. I was honestly kind of concerned early on, probably the first 4 or 5 minutes against Bradley, because Arkansas was giving up a bunch of straight line drives from the perimeter. And that's kind of what they struggled with against Oklahoma too. So I was like, oh, in my mind thinking, here we go again, might have some issues guarding the perimeter drives, guarding guards, all that sort of stuff. And after 1 or 2 media timeouts, completely shut down. But the difference between Oklahoma and Bradley, Arkansas was able to recover after giving up these drives a lot better and contest the shots at the rim, so they weren't scoring as much at the rim. As far as turnovers go, I mean, Arkansas did a really nice job of, whenever Bradley would try to throw something into the post, they would dig constantly. So if they try to go ISO in the post on Mekhi Mitchell or on Kamani Johnson, anything like that, you'd have a guard, you'd have Anthony Black, you'd have Devo diving down, digging down, and just stripping the ball away. And that was pretty effective. Also, just being super long and athletic in the front court forced a lot of really bad passes. Bradley tried to go baseline some, and Arkansas's guards just forced them. They kept forcing them baseline instead of forcing them back inside. And they just ended up running out of room and dribbling out of bounds sometimes too. So overall defensive game plan was executed to perfection outside of like the first 4 minutes. And I mean, you see that when you barely allow 50 points, you force 27 turnovers, under 30% from the 3-point line for the 5th time this year. It was a great defensive performance.
So I was looking at the net rankings while you were talking. Bradley dropped down to 80, but now they're back up to 74. So does that make that it was counted as a home game for Arkansas? Does that make it still a quad 2 win? I can't remember if it.
I think that is a quad 2 win. I think 1 through 75 at home is, or not 1 through 75, 1 through 30 at home. And then would it be 31 through 75?
Hold on.
Or would it be 30 through 50? I can't remember.
I need to look it up. Arkansas basketball net, because I did a story about it. Net rankings.
I can never keep all the quadrants in my mind.
This is great audio. Oh, here we go. I got it. We're almost there. Okay, here we go. Home 31 through 75 is a quad 2 win. So it is a quad 2 win. Because after the game, it dropped down to a quad 3 win, and now it's back up to a quad 2 win. So that's huge for Arkansas moving forward. They got one more game until SEC play, and that's UNC Asheville, which I believe is going to be a quad 4 game. When I wrote this story, UNC Asheville was, I don't know. Let me just command F this one because everybody wants to know. They're 189 in the net, so that would be a quad 4 game. Okay, that was a bad sequence there. Okay, quad 4 game against UNC Asheville, and then you start SEC play. So you got one more game, non-conference, and then of course you have Baylor in the SEC Big 12 Challenge in January. What do you need to see from this team in the last game before SEC play Jackson? Because I feel like, we've seen one of the probably the most complete team that Eric Musselman has had to this point in the season at Arkansas, but there are still things to improve on.
Oh yeah. So I guess number one, so UNC Asheville is going to come into the game being one of the top 3-point shooting teams in the country. They shoot almost 40% from the 3-point line. Arkansas has had a good 3-point defense so far this year, but there have been a couple games where they've allowed a high percentage. So I would like to be able to see them to shut down like a really good 3-point shooting team. Again, just to kind of go into conference play with even more, I guess, film and ability and all that sort of stuff to do that. That would make me feel better as a fan and all that sort of stuff. Like, okay, Arkansas can guard the 3 because you got teams in the SEC that just throw that thing up from all over the place. Alabama, Auburn, some others, but would really love to see that. And then also would really like to see maybe a higher percentage from the 3-point line themselves. It really is tough when you lose one of your top 3-point shooters in Trevor Brazile. He was spacing the floor and shooting 38% from 3-point line, and you remove him and you don't have a bad 3-point shooting team. The percentage is low, but for the most part, you have guys like individual pieces who are shooting pretty well from beyond the arc. Anthony Black is pushing 40%. I think Ricky Council's around the 35% mark. Jordan Walsh is right at the 35% mark. So it looks like the individual shooters are pretty solid, but for whatever reason, depending on who takes the shots or what happens, the team percentage is fairly low. But you still got to be able to knock them down as a team so that you can keep defenses more honest and they're not honing in on just 2 or 3 guys. Devo was, I think, just 1 for 1 or maybe 1 for 2 against Bradley. The one he hit, it looked really good. I mean, it was a quality shot. It was wide open. He took it in rhythm, didn't wait too long, didn't rush anything. Hopefully that's something. I know he's kind of struggled a little bit this year from outside, but if he can get back to shooting at least like upper 20%, maybe even lower 30s, if he can get to that level, that would help tremendously. Outside of that, I would love to kind of establish at least one more guy off of the bench. I don't know if that's going to be Jalen Graham, if you're going to put someone like Barry Dunning or Joseph Pinion in there. But right now, you lose Trevin Brazile and essentially you cut down your rotation that was already short. And you have your starting five that's been the same, plus Devo off the bench, and Kamani Johnson's kind of been inserted into the main rotation after that. I kind of would love to see another guy from the backcourt, maybe a Joseph Pinion, maybe a Barry Dunning, maybe Jalen Graham too for the front court. I mean, he got some run against Bradley, looked competent. I mean, he had his biggest knock has been defense, and he had 3 or 4 really good defensive possessions as soon as he came in. But he like struggled offensively, which was kind of wild early on. At least he ended up scoring, had a couple really nice post plays. One of them didn't score, but it was a really gorgeous post move where he caught it and did a spin move with a drop step and tried to dunk on top of somebody and just missed the dunk. But Arkansas got the rebound and he ended up scoring on it anyway. But those are my 3 biggest things. Continue to defend the 3 ball really well. Try to improve your own 3-point shooting, and maybe try to implement one more guy into the rotation, because as it is, it's a 6.5 rotation right now. Would love to be at a full 7.
Agreed. All good points. I think that this team, you know, if they could knock down the 3 at a consistent rate and have, you know, just a knockdown shooter, which I don't think they're going to have. I mean, Nick could be that if he's healthy. That would be incredible. You know, Trevin Brazile was that for a little bit. I don't know if you would call him knockdown, but he was consistently hitting, you know, at least 1 or 2 a game. So, man, they're going to miss Trevin Brazile, and he was fun to watch too. It stinks to just, you know, sit there and think about that, you know, once a day. Dang, Trevin Brazile. Okay, I guess that's really all that we have, but we want to remind you about our sponsors, Bet Saracen. It is the official mobile sports gambling app of the Saracen Casino Resort. They will have all of the Arkansas lines, odds, player props. They also run specials for Arkansas games, so make sure you check out Bet Saracen. Download the app in the Google Play and the App Store, and it's just a great app. They don't run specials just for Arkansas games. They run specials for all kinds of stuff. I think they were running specials for Austin Reeves to hit like a 3-pointer in the second half for the Lakers. They had a Baker Mayfield second half passing touchdown special, stuff like that. Great stuff over at Bet Saracen. So make sure you download the app and get in on all of those specials and player props for Arkansas games as well. And visit HawgBeat.com, because we'll have a story laying that out for you on the Bet Saracen player props and stuff like that. So, and our last sponsor is MyPerfectFranchise.net. If you are a displaced corporate executive and you want to put your career in your own hands, you need to call Andy Luedecke with MyPerfectFranchise.net. He can help you. He's a longtime franchise veteran. He's owned multiple franchises and businesses, and he wants to help you do the same to get some more cash in your pocket. He takes you through a very thorough and free consultation process, but all you got to do is call him to do that. It's 404-973-9901. Andy Luedecke with MyPerfectFranchise.net. The number is 404-973-9901. All right, Jackson, you got any crazy Christmas plans?
None really. Just going to South Arkansas for a little bit, then headed up to Northwest Arkansas, and pretty much it. And I'm going to read a lot of books while I'm on Christmas break. So hopefully I can get 3 or 4 in.
There you go. Well, I hope everybody listening has a wonderful, wonderful Christmas. Enjoy your time with your family. Travel safe. And we'll talk to everybody on the Hardwood Hawgs Podcast next week.